Namaskar, Pranam, Jai Hind. Welcome to our channel Design Setu. Today we will learn how to attach a sleeve. So first mark your front notch and back notch. Now you can start your stitching. So first set your stitch length. So it will be the maximum stitch length of your machine. Either it can be 4 or 5. So just stitch 1/16 of inch away from the marked line and second stitch at the distance of 1/4 of inch. So when you are stitching, do not lock the thread in the beginning and at the end. So you can see here I have stitched 2 parallel line. Now you can take the upper thread of both the line and just lock it. So I am locking for the front notch. Then you can also lock both the upper thread at the back notch area. Now your bobbin thread is free, so just hold both the bobbin thread and pull it. So when you pull it, it will create gather. So you can distribute your gather with the help of your finger and thumb. So distribute it in such a manner so that you cannot see any kind of gather. So you can see the curve area here. Now you can spread your front and back. So as you can see here, I have already attached the shoulder. So first pin side seam to front notch, then shoulder, and again from notch to side seam for the back. Never stretch the fabric at the side seam to notch for front and back both. Now you can adjust the remaining area and pin it. So you can see here I am pinning it. So I have already pinned. Now you can check your mitring at the yoke area. If it is not mitered, then repin it. Now you can start your stitching. So first start from side seam. So as you can see here, I have already started my stitching. Always place your sleeve on the top at the time of stitching so that you can easily manage your gather. At the time of stitch, do not stretch any fabric, either for the sleeve or for the bodies. So with the help of a bigger needle, you can adjust your gather. When you are stitching, you can remove your pins, otherwise it will break your machine needle. So stitch from side seam crossing the shoulder point area, and it will end at the another side seam. So there will be no gather in between this area. So I have finished my stitching. So I have started from side seam of front and end at the side seam of back. So you can see the mitring here, it is perfect. So the yoke lines has to match with the sleeve grain. After stitching, just press open the seam allowance. Now cut the 1/4 of inch seam allowance of bodice area. So just cut from side seam to side seam. After cutting, you can cover that raw edges with the sleeve seam allowance. So just fold the seam allowance of sleeve and cover it and place it towards the bodice. So just fold it and place it towards bodice. If you want, you can iron it, or you can do hand basting with the help of hand needle. So just hand basting it from side seam to side seam. Now come to the right side of the fabric and stitch from the top. So I have already placed the allowance towards bodies. So just stitch 1/4 of inch away from the seam line. So at the time of stitching, spread the armhole area with both of your hand. So spread it gently and give a top stitch. So you can also give edge stitch if required. You can give 2 parallel lines, or it can be depend on your desired design. So I have already stitched the armhole area. So your sleeve is finished. Now you can cut your hand basting and pull it. So you can see here mitring has to be perfect. Now spread your shirt. So the area which is visible is the right side. It means we are facing wrong side together. So just spread it flat and start pinning. So start pinning from the bottom or the wrist area. So pin your bottom, then match the armhole line and pin it, then pin the sleeve side seam. So you can stitch from wrist to bottom or bottom to wrist. So I am starting from wrist to bottom. So we have taken 1/2 inch seam allowance. So use the 1/2 inch seam allowance and stitch the entire side seam in one go. So match wrist, armhole line and bottom. So after stitching, you can again spread your shirt and press open the seam allowance. Now you can again cut the seam allowance of the back. Do not cut the front panel seam allowance. So cut the seam allowance from wrist to side seam, means the entire seam allowance of back. So I am reducing it. Now you can iron it and cover that cut seam allowance with the front seam allowance. So just cover it and place it towards back panel. You can also use iron for the better finishing, or you can also do hand basting. So after pinning, stitch on the edge. So there will be two parallel lines visible on the right side of the fabric. It means you can see two parallel stitches at the side seam area. So your front panel and back panel is flat, so you can easily stitch that portion, but you have already stitched your sleeve, so it will be difficult to stitch the sleeve area. So first stitch 1.5 inch, then spread the armhole area gently and again stitch 1 inch, then again spread it and do the same process to complete the side seam of the sleeve, because it is very narrow and it will be difficult to handle. So your pressure foot has to move through that tunnel. So I have completed my stitch from bottom to wrist throughout the side seam. So you can see two parallel stitch. So you can see the armhole area, it has to match. So armhole area of the shirt and side seam of the shirt is ready now. Please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind.